Before Steve Jobs was Steve Jobs, he was a phone hacker. Yeah, you heard that right. At 12, a not-yet teenager Steve Jobs cold called Bill Hewlett, the actual founder of HP, and talked his way into getting free computer parts. At 19, he and Woz were building illegal devices to hack AT&T's phone network. Here's what nobody tells you: the DNA of Apple, everything that made it revolutionary, was already there in these early hustles. There are 3 things that he did that nobody teaches in business school. And these aren't feel-good platitudes. They're tactical moves you can steal right now. Let's get started. The first move: build something you desperately want. Not what the market wants necessarily, at least what you might read about in the Wall Street Journal, and not what investors want either. What you want. Take the blue box. Jobs and Woz didn't do market research to see if people wanted to hack phone lines. They built it because they thought it was cool as hell. Here's the thing. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. Nobody was asking for a device to hack phones, but once it existed, well, that was the beginning. That was something that Steve wanted, and that got him started on his path. They'd use it to prank call the Pope, to call friends in other countries for free. Pure mischief. But here's the kicker. That little illegal gadget taught them something.
Together, we built blue boxes together for a while, which were little devices that could allow you to make free phone calls everywhere. Illegally, I might add.
Think about that. 2 kids in Los Altos discovered they could bend the rules of a massive corporation. AT&T had billions of dollars. These guys had a garage, and they had the free reign of that billions of dollars of global infrastructure. That experience was extremely formative for young Jobs. If they could hack the phone company, what else was possible? Fast forward to 1975. Computers cost $40,000 and took entire rooms. Nobody was asking some teenagers in a garage to build them personal computers, but Jobs and Woz weren't asking for permission.
The reason we built a computer was that we wanted one and we couldn't afford one.
So they said, screw it. We'll build our own. And they literally dumpster dived for parts. They sweet-talked suppliers. They begged, borrowed, and hustled. Here's a detail that blows my mind. They had to sell their most prized possessions just to buy components. Woz sold his HP 65 calculator, $500. Jobs sold his VW van, $1,500. It was 40 to 50 hours to hand assemble each Apple I, hunched over workbenches, burning their fingers with soldering irons. Why? Because their friends wanted them. They sold their first 50 units to a local computer shop for $500 each. Do the math. $25,000 from something they built because they couldn't afford the mini computer alternative? Here's what you need to understand. So many of the breakthrough companies that you've heard of, they start just in that way. The founders desperately want something that doesn't exist, so they make it exist. You sitting there right now, what drives you crazy? What do you wish existed? Stop waiting for someone else to build it. That's your startup. Second move. Your startup is not a straight line. It's a maze, and most founders are terrible at mazes because they think admitting you hit a wall means you failed. Jobs learned this the hard way. After Apple kicked him out, they literally fired the founder. He could have retired. He was already worth $200 million. Instead, he starts Next Computer. The plan? Build the ultimate workstation for universities. The result? Total disaster. The Next Cube was gorgeous. Magnesium case, optical storage, Unix-based OS. It was also $10,000, and nobody bought it.
You know, when we started Next, I guess have to take credit for this. made a mistake that I don't think is terribly uncommon, which is you leave something where you were pretty successful, and the next thing you do, you try to copy a lot of the paradigms of success that worked the last time, and don't realize that the world is changing from underneath your feet.
But watch what happens next. This is the difference between Jobs and most everyone else. He doesn't double down on hardware. He doesn't get protective about his original vision. He pivots completely to software.
One of the things I always tried to coach myself on was not being afraid to fail. You know, when you have something that doesn't work out, a lot of times people's reaction is to get very protective about ever wanting to fall on their face again. And I think that's a big mistake. And so as Next became a software company, we really had something that a lot of people wanted.
Here's something that Jobs understood that most people don't. Success isn't permanent.
If one group of people didn't do something, within a certain number of years, the Times would produce another group of people that would accomplish similar things.
You can't walk through the walls of the maze. You must change your course to walk the maze. The software was so good that when Apple was dying in 1997, Apple bought Next for $400 million just to get it. And guess what? The software became Mac OS. The failure became the solution. Let that sink in. The thing that flopped spectacularly ended up saving Apple. Most founders quit at the first wall, or the second. Jobs hit dozens of walls and kept finding new paths. That's the maze mindset. Right now, you might be stuck somewhere. Your startup might be hitting a wall right now. You know what? Good, because that means you're in the maze. The question is, are you going to just stand there staring at the wall, or are you going to go back up and try another route? Third move, stop trying to be such a one-trick pony specialist. Jobs called himself a humanities person who liked electronics. That weird combination changed everything. In 1974, Jobs dropped out of Reed College, but he kept sneaking into classes. One of those random classes, calligraphy. Totally useless, right? Wrong. 10 years later, that calligraphy class becomes the Mac's secret weapon, the first computer with beautiful typography. Windows couldn't match it for years.
Our goal was to bring a liberal arts perspective and a liberal arts audience to what it had traditionally been, a very geeky technology.
This is what separated Apple from every other tech company. They hired musicians, artists, writers, not just engineers.
A lot of companies hire people to tell them what to do. We hired people to tell us what to do. And that led to a very different corporate culture, much more collegial than hierarchical.
Think about Pixar. Jobs bought that company, but at the time, he didn't know that much about animation. But he brought tech discipline to creative chaos. The result, the first company to make a computer-animated feature film. Those Pixar years taught him about storytelling. You see it in every Apple keynote after. They're not product launches, they're 3-act narratives. Here's what separated Jobs from every other tech CEO. He never saw work and life as different things.
I've never been able to sort of think of my work and my life as different things. They're the same thing.
When your work is your life, your obsessions become your products. Your curiosities become your innovations, and when you're that obsessed, failure is just feedback.
One of the things I always tried to coach myself on was not being afraid to fail. You never achieve what you want without falling on your face a few times in the process of getting there.
Your random interests aren't distractions, they're ammunition. Every weird thing you learn becomes a lens for seeing problems differently. Most founders narrow themselves. I'm a technical founder. I'm a business guy. Screw that. Be everything. Read everything. Try everything. Build the things you desperately want. You're the best focus group you'll ever have. When you hit walls, and you will, back up and find another path. The maze rewards persistence, not perfection. Feed your weird curiosities. Your competitive advantage is the unique combination of everything you know. Steve Jobs started with nothing. No money, no connections, no computer science degree, just 3 moves executed over and over. Today, Apple is worth trillions of dollars. Over 1 billion people use their products, and it all started from a garage in Los Altos and capital from selling a used calculator and a VW bus. Here's the part that nobody wants to admit. You have, right now, more tools than Jobs ever did. You have the internet, you have free programming courses, you have access to billions of customers through that internet. So what's your excuse? The garage door is open, the blueprints are right here. The only question is, are you gonna build something, or are you gonna keep watching videos? Your move.